Welcome to Abundance Coaching TV, and this is our episode number 2. And today I'm extremely excited because in today's episode we will be talking about who you are and why you should live with passion. It's a great question, isn't it? Who are you? It's one of the questions that you probably ask yourself maybe once in a while, and really it's one of the most asked questions out there. So I wanted to invite some guests today on the show and tackle this massive question of who you are and get into a place of just helping you to understand who you are and what matters the most to you and what drives you. And really what drives you in a lot of ways is passion. So today I want to talk to you about passion as well, because the passion of life is so worthwhile. And I can say that my purpose for what I feel that I have in my life is to help people connect with their authentic, amazing self so that they can live with passion and have abundance in their life. And that really starts at you at the core, wanting to recognize that you need to connect with yourself. You need to connect with who you are. You need to connect with what's amazing about you and what's lovely about you. And also connect to others. Don't we want to have connections with others? And the next part is being authentic. So how can you be authentic with who you are? Being authentic with what you're about, so that you know that you're not putting a face up, you're not putting a facade up, that you're actually being true to who you are and what you mean and what matters to you. And you actually know who you are and what matters to you. So having authenticity is a vital part of figuring out who you are. And the next part is amazing. So in my coaching, I come from a platform, a foundation of believing with faith that everybody is created amazing. At conception, we were all created as amazing. One of my favorite speakers of all time is a man by the name of Tony Campolo. And Tony has a great opener. And he says in some of his talks at the very beginning is that you are a winner. And I can prove it to you. Because at one point, you and a million other people stood at a starting line and there was a race. And there was a long, dark tunnel. And at the end of that tunnel was the reward. And you won. You won the race. So you were a winner right from the beginning. Right from conception, you were a winner. You were created as a winner. And you are absolutely amazing. Now here's the thing. Some people don't believe this. Some people have gotten to a place to stop believing that they're amazing. Stop believing that there's something incredibly important, incredibly special about you. So special, in fact, that if you actually walked in that amazing part of your life, that your life could be transformed, that your life could be so much more than what it maybe is. And the other day I gave a talk and I got everybody to sing I'm Amazing. It just was a spontaneous thing. I just felt it in my spirit that it was something that needed to just come out, and I started singing it. I got 100 or so people in the audience singing this I'm amazing over and over again. I'm amazing. I'm amazing. I'm amazing. I'm amazing. And as they sang this, the song kept on going. I didn't plan for that. And people were laughing, and there was joy and happiness as they were singing, I'm amazing. And it touched me. And when I invited them to sing it again at the very end of my talk, they were right on board. They're ready for it. But what hit me was later on I got a message from the organizer of that event, the person who actually hired me, and she said, you know, it was really touching what you did to help people sing I'm amazing and to introduce that idea. But I wonder how many people in the audience have actually ever told themselves that they're amazing. And I stopped. I was on my computer. You know how you are sometimes. You get busy on your computer. You have all these emails to get through. And I stopped and I did one of these. She's right. there probably is a lot of people that were in that audience that had never said to themselves, I'm amazing, which really could be translated into saying, hey, I'm worthwhile. I know who I am. I care who I am. I love who I am. So at the preface of this incredible topic, I tell you that you are amazing. You are amazing. You are amazingly created for great things. And when you were born, you were created as a winner right from the start. So instead of just jumping into like all the hard questions of like, okay, how do we live with passion and all of these things, because there's some hard questions that come from that. We're going to get to that at the very end. And I have a special guest here who's going to talk about that. And we're going to get into living with passion in your occupation. We're going to get into living with passion when you think that things are rock bottom. We're going to talk about how it looks to live with passion and how it looks to know who you are. But before we get into the how-tos, ask yourself how you deal with the emotional part of your worry that you can't maybe fight through, or maybe there's something that's blocking you, or the limiting belief that's maybe blocking you from believing that you're amazing and that you're created as amazing and that you can do amazing things and that amazing things are coming to you and that you can absolutely live in your passion. You can find out what your passion is and you can actually take it to the next level, and you can totally just like break the doors off whatever life you have and get to that next level if that's what you want. So we're gonna watch a show here now, or a clip from this weekend. And this past weekend, I had an opportunity to go to West Edmonton Mall. And when I was at West Edmonton Mall, I just loved my son's exuberance and excitement and passion. And I just thought, this is perfect and a great analogy as I was preparing for this episode about living with passion. I'm sure you're going to love this. He's 3 years old. His name is Josiah. And all of a sudden, he just bolted away from us. We were in Galaxyland at the West Edmonton Mall. And we didn't know where he was. All of a sudden, my wife was this way, and I was that way. And we were like lost trying to find our son. And I had a suspicion that he'd taken off into the playground out there at West Edmonton Mall. And sure enough, somebody at the kiosk there said, hey, so are you looking for a little boy? He snuck past me. And then I look up 3 stories up. He already climbed up to the 3rd story, and he acknowledged me. He looked at me. He's like, oh, there's my dad. He took off again. So I chased him up to the top, and I took some videos of him, and I'd love for you to watch. We're just going to cue that up. You can do it, buddy. Okay. You're almost here. You've climbed up really far. Way to go, man. Oh, come on. You can do it, buddy. Come on. You're almost here. Good job. You're determined. Wow, look at you. You just climbed up through a tunnel 3 stories. Wow. Okay, Josiah, let's go. Where are we going now? Good job, buddy. High five. All right. Buddy. Come on, buddy. You can do it. your foot up here. There you go, Josiah. Whee! That was a lot of fun. So what did you see when you saw Josiah as he was climbing up the third story in this inner tube or type thing, and he was just climbing up and just he got all the way to the third level, and he's like, I can do it, and I was just so proud of him as I saw. But one thing that I recognized was the absolute determination and passion that this kid had. He was just like, he took off whatever was going on. He's like, I see something and I'm going for it. He saw the play jungle and he just went for it. And he saw the tunnel where he was climbing up at the very beginning of that clip, and he just went for it. And he climbed up, and it was hard, like 3 stories of climbing in this tunnel, and he just went for it. And all to slide down this slide that spun in a circle. And he had just so much joy with doing that. The passion of a child is remarkable. And many of the people here that are watching in the audience, I'm sure that you can recognize that there's passion with children. And there's so much exuberance and excitement. But the question I have for you after watching that show is, have you lost the passion of your childhood? Have you lost the passion of your childhood? And if so, what can you do today to start gaining back that passion? Who are you, and why should you live with passion? There's one operative word here. That's the middle word, the why. It's often been said that if the why is strong enough, you'll figure everything else out. Well, that's pretty true. If you figure out why you're doing something, why you're motivated to do something, why you're in the process of doing something, you're going to get it done. Or you're going to figure out how to get it done. And if you're solid with that, then you're going to get it done. However, a lot of people are wishy-washy on their why. They're not clear on their why. Some people don't even ask themselves the question. So I have a strategy for you, a coaching strategy for you that I hope helps with figuring out what your why is. And it starts with this. It starts with really asking yourself that question. Why? Why are you what? Why are you in the middle of this situation that you're in? Figure out why it is that you're in the middle of the situation that you're in. And it's okay if you get into some of the areas that are uncomfortable in this process. But understand that you need to ask the question as the first step. Ask yourself why as the first step. So ask yourself that question. Why are you in the middle of that situation? Why? Okay? Once you do that, you can ask yourself follow-up questions. And as a coach, when I get my client in here, sometimes there's stuck points that they have. So they feel like there's not enough motivation, there's lack of confidence. I was in a coaching call today, and things like, I don't feel like I'm good enough come up. So these things are some of your stuck points. So that's great. Flush them out, brainstorm them, get them out on paper if you can. Flush those out, because it's important for you to actually come up with what the obstacles are that are holding you back from figuring out what your why is. So, number 2, flush out. Ask yourself the question first. Number 2, flush out the obstacles. Flush out the obstacles that hold you back. It's important for you to do that. All right? And number 3, take a look at why from a totally new perspective. Now I want to show you what that means. Why is like so vital and important for you to actually figure things out. Imagine for a second that you see a river, and lots of people know what rivers are like, okay? And you know that rivers flow in a certain direction. We're going to imagine that this river flows like this, okay? And let's just imagine for a second that you actually have determined that your motivation is here. The why is here. You're totally motivated to actually accomplish this. You know what you want, you figured that out. You flushed it out, you've flushed out the obstacles. Now here's the new perspective, okay? So here's your why, you're looking at it right here. You have these things identified, right? And this is exactly where you're meant to be. You know that. There's something that's passionate, that's driving you with that, okay? When you see the river as it's flowing like this, and you have all of the motion of it going like this, understand that you still need to have the resource of the river, because in life we need to be filled up. There's things that actually need to fill us up. In the same way with your why, if you're driving yourself towards a worthwhile goal or dream, there's going to be times when you're going to renew yourself and you're going to need to renew yourself. So what are you going to have to do? If you're out here, you're going to have to go back to the river and then come back over here. So you go back and forth to the river and back over here. Important process. So now that you've replenished yourself and you've come back to your why, then you have a renewable resource or something that's giving you energy or passion to drive forward. But then again, the next day you're still going to have to go back to the water source to get more water source. And what this can look like practically is that perhaps your passion is totally out here. You know that from birth you were called to do something. You were called out to do something. And as we talked about at the very beginning, you possibly know that from a young age there was something absolutely passionate that you know that you need to do or that you can do. And there's something exciting about that passionate thing that you can do. And this is where you need to be, right? And for a period of time, you need to actually go back over here. This might be the job that you need to actually have. So the job is close to the water or the renewable resource, and then you come back over here to the why for a period of time. All right? At a point, you're going to have to actually do something. This is the hard part, but also the most amazing part of this process. You have to realize that you won't be able to just travel back and forth over here because, number one, you probably lose motivation. You probably do something, but at a point you'll feel like, hey, I'm stuck. I can't actually move forward, and you'll feel like you're drained in a way. What you can do is at a point you actually have to say, hey, listen, just like a river, if you needed to actually flow in a different direction, there's work that needs to be done, but you can do that. So in this case, if the river's flowing this way and you know that you're just going back and forth, if you need that renewable resource to come your way, look at it like this and then draw the river out here. Now, in a real life situation, what would happen is that you dam this off over here or form a little bit of a lake over here. You'd trench this out here and you'd route the water towards where you need it to go. A lot of people are out here and they just plant themselves around where the money is. So they get jobs in wherever they're not passionate, but the money is good. In Saskatchewan, a lot of people that I've talked to work in the mining industry, the oil industry. Some people love that. And some other people that I know of, they're working there because there's some money there. And if it's for a time, that's great, as I mentioned. But if they live it out and their lifers there and they know that there's something that's more, then what are they doing about living in their why? They'll probably have lack of passion in some ways in their life if that's the case. So a lot of people just plant themselves over here where they feel that the renewable resource is coming up, but they're never living in their why. So what they do is they abandon this and they keep on living in this. So what you do, and I can challenge you to do, is to say over here, you need to make a choice. That your why is important enough to do this and to go through the cost of what this process means. This process in real life situations means that there's going to be work, there's going to be time, there's going to be rerouting, you're going to have to trench the new river system. Yeah, there's going to be that. But what about having that overflow and having that renewable resource of the river just coming to you? Then you don't have to worry about that part of it, and you know that you can actually live in your why. And there's abundance, and there's more than that that just comes from that if you do that. So this is a new perspective that I challenge you to take a look at. Look at your why today. Ask yourself the hard questions. Ask yourself why the obstacles are holding you back. And then take a look at how you can look at this new perspective. And by the way, this is a why right here. Take a look at this new perspective and how you could actually make a choice that your why is important enough to go through whatever pain or whatever you think that this might be over here, because you know that the renewable resource will bring you right past where you need to be, which is living in your purpose, living in your passion, living in your sweet spot. We're going to watch a video here of somebody I think just did an extraordinary thing. Some of you may have watched a part of this video or maybe a whole video. We re-rendered it in a way that I think that you'll find really fascinating. His name is Felix Baumgartner, and he flew from the stratosphere. Actually, he didn't fly. He free fell from the stratosphere all the way down to Earth and did something absolutely incredible. He I think, did something absolutely, totally risky, but at the same time for him, that's his passion. His passion was to do this and to have the highest free fall in history, but also just to break his own laws. And when you watch the video, I'm sure you'll be inspired. So check it out.
Let me tell you, when I was standing there on top of the world, you become so humble. You do not think about breaking records anymore. You do not think about gaining scientific data. The only thing that you want is you want to come back alive, you know, because you do not want to die in front of your parents, your girlfriend, and all these people watching this. This became the most important thing to me when I was standing out there.
And what was it that you said?
I said, I know the whole world is watching now, and I wish the world could see what I see. And sometimes you have to go up really high to understand how small you are.
Sometimes you have to get up really high, how small you are. I'm going home now. Jump away.
Felix Baumgartner, a man who has dedicated his life to realizing a dream, to achieve human flight, from crossing the English Channel in a wingsuit to jumping off every significant building in the world.
Go. Stand by, ground crew. Here they come. He's making a move. He just passed the plane. 3, 2, 1, jump.
Felix lands just 6 seconds later in this unprecedented plunge. Felix powers through the air at 170 kilometers per hour and free falls for 8 seconds. Felix's jump from the Petronas Towers is number 3. Success depends on maintaining a perfect horizontal gliding position. The crossing takes just 6 minutes and 22 seconds.
All right, welcome back again. Thanks for joining us again, live stream audience. And wasn't that amazing? Like, he free fell from space. Like, I just thought that that was just absolutely incredible. And some of the things that he was just talking about, just as he was like standing up there, like, can you imagine just like standing up there? I remember when I was in Switzerland, I went out and I had an opportunity to free fall from a helicopter. And the hardest part was not the fall. It was actually standing there or sitting on the edge with my feet on the low landing gear of this helicopter as I stared down 10,000 feet in the middle of these two mountains. The Jungfrau Mountain was behind me and another mountain range was over here. And I was just staring down, and it was like, and 10 seconds before we actually jumped felt like eternity. So you can imagine that times however many more times staring up from space, knowing that you're plunging down. But you have to give the guy credit. He's living his passion. And you know, you may wonder why, but he is. He's living his passion. And how cool. You know, never take that away from somebody. So I have a special guest here. And Steve is a friend of mine, but Steve is also somebody that I invited to this show because I know that he has passion and he lives with passion. Yesterday I had the opportunity to actually go to coffee chat with Steve and speak to around 30 people that often meet him. And he's so passionate about this coffee chatting that every other week he hosts it, and it's a free event, but they always talk about motivational and positive personal development topics. And I just think that it's incredible, Steve, that you have the passion to do that, because there's so much need, Steve, for personal development. So do you want to share just like why you are doing this act of service with the coffee chat?
Sure, yeah, I could do that. It's really, I tell people when they ask me, actually, because people have asked me before, why are you doing this? And I tell people, well, I do it mostly for me. Now that may sound kind of selfish, and some people may even think, you know, they get the impression that I'm going to be trying to sell them something or what have you. You know, it's a front. It's got to be a front for something, surely. And I ask people sometimes. I ask them, you know, have you ever gone to a hockey game? Have you ever gone to the gym? Have you ever gone to a movie? And they say, yeah, of course I have. And I ask them, well, why do you do that? And they say, well, it's because I want to do that. I say, well, there's your answer.
Yeah.
I want to do this. I'm fired up about it. And quite frankly, this whole idea of personal growth, personal development, the human potential, I can talk to myself about it, but quite frankly, I'd rather talk to other people about it as well.
Yeah.
And get people communicating with me about it. And it all kind of works like a vortex and it builds us all up.
Yeah.
Because now we're talking about something positive. We're talking about building ourselves up. We're talking about the nature that exists within us.
Sure.
To go in any direction. If we talk about negativity, we can build ourselves in negativity if we want to.
Yeah.
If we talk about things in positivity and what is possible, in other words, possibility thinking, then we can move ourselves in that direction as well.
Oh, that's amazing. That's awesome. So in the little break there while we were watching Felix's video, you were talking to me about how you felt that what I shared about the why in the river was really profound, and you had something that you wanted to add to that. And what would you like to share that with the audience today?
Sure, yeah. You know, because when you invited me to come on to talk about passion and why, I thought that was really fitting because actually this little coffee chat club we have going here in Saskatoon, it's called Coffee Chat on Improving the Quality of Our Lives. Because for me anyways, I kind of like to dissect things as I look at things. And I realized that for me, and for anybody I talk to, when I looked really deep as to why, or what it is that's driving me to get something, it's a why, it's a deepness, and it's something I call a quality. In other words, when somebody goes after money, when I go after money for something, it's not just the money that I want. I don't want to just pay for bills. There's a why behind that.
Sure. And
if I examine that why, I can find out the why. And that's a good thing to know. It's a good thing to examine at least, because then it gives context, it gives substance to what we're doing.
Yeah.
So I'm no longer just putting tiles on the side of a bathroom to make some money. There's a reason for that.
Sure.
And my life takes on meaning. The more I look at it, the more my life takes on meaning. When my life takes on meaning, my wife takes on meaning as well. When my life takes on meaning, it's so much more enjoyable to live.
Oh, that's so cool.
That itself builds quality.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And, you know, we're going to talk a little bit more with Steve here after we watch an interview that I did with somebody that I think is absolutely incredible. And when we talk a little bit later, I want to actually talk to you about a couple of the books that you've written. And we actually are going to talk about the why when it comes to your career and your passions when it comes to even like the monetization aspect of things in a bit. But before we get to that, I have a really, really special guest that I'm going to introduce now. And he can't be with us live, so I actually had a conversation with him via Skype just yesterday. And in our conversation, man, it just blew me away because this guy is absolutely passionate about life. I met him about a month ago at a conference, and I just thought, I've got to have this guy on my show. And you're going to recognize that right off the bat. Nick Hansinger is somebody who is a difference maker out there. He's a passionate guy. He's somebody who can just see something that might be negative and just like turn it into a positive. And when you meet people and when you get around people like that, there's incredible things that can happen. And I can share with you just my experience while being at this conference. And actually, by the way, it was the Coaching Leadership Academy that Ted McGrath hosts once a year. Or actually, I guess it's a few times a year. And that was just this past month. And when we were live at this conference, we got to sit with each other in the VIP section, and Nick really just was authentically interested in what was going on with me. And I could just so see just like how caring and passionate he is and he was. And also his partner Donna was there, and I'd say the same for her. So we're going to cue up that video, and I know that you're going to take a lot out of the passion, but also hear his words, because there's so much that you can take out of it with living with passion and how to live with passion. Okay, once again, I'm here with Nick Hansinger, and today we're going to be talking about living with passion. And the reason why I invited Nick onto the show here with us is because I feel that Nick is somebody who absolutely lives with passion. And mate, when we first met was actually about a month ago. We were at the Coaching Leadership Academy, and at that event, you and Donna really inspired me. And we struck up a conversation. I told you that I had this big dream to have thousands of people hear my voice, because I believe that God has given me something that's really special to actually have that voice be communicated out there in the world. And you were so optimistic and encouraging in my vision that I really took into your vision too. And some of the things that you were excited about with your yoga studio and things like that. And it wasn't just because you were excited about my thing that I was excited about your thing, but also I really just caught part of your vision with where you're going with your life and what you and Donna are doing and how you've been stepping in. So do you want to share just for the audience just a little bit about what you and Donna do, and just maybe just to try to weave it in a way to help people just maybe get a takeaway as well, to understand a bit of where you're coming from?
For sure, yeah. And I just wanted to say, it was really just so inspiring to hear your message too. That time at Coaching Leadership Academy, it was just such a joy to spend together, and both of us there, and all three of us there really up front was a gas, right? So I just love being around that energy. But for me and Donna, we both own a yoga studio right now, and my background, just so you know a little bit about me, is we're both musicians. And then Donna had this crazy idea to come back and open up a yoga studio, and she did exactly that. And so we've been building that together. And then at a certain point, Donna's really good for asking new questions, and she just asked me, like, what do you think about this? And what do you think about this coaching thing? And I was just blown away. I was like, yeah, this is perfect. It was exactly what I was looking to do and to share. And in the way that I like to work with people. So it just made perfect sense. And since then, Donna and I have been building a coaching business together, and helping to integrate that with our community in a really powerful way, so that we could just help people find creative ways to come into their full potential and really live the lives that they want to live and that they deserve to live.
Oh, that's so awesome. That's so cool. And there's going to be a lot of people that are listening right now, and they're probably on this show because they're like, okay, sounds good to live with passion. That's a really nice thing to do. But they might have these reservations for themselves. It's like, oh, how do I really do that, really? Like, realistically, how does that look, to live with passion? Would you mind just, you told me a bit of your story. Would you mind sharing a bit of your story and just help weave your story maybe in a way that they could actually see, okay, this guy's the real deal?
Yeah. It's funny too. You mentioned that, and a lot of people, it's like, that's a luxury, right? I happen to be able to live with some passion, and that's really nice. And it is a luxury, and it absolutely is a gift. But I also believe that it's really, really necessary for people to live from that kind of a space, to bring out more of their energy, to bring out more of their gifts, because then we just have more to share with everybody. And economically, for sure, like, there's going to be benefits to that, and building thriving businesses and lives around those sorts of things. But spiritually, if you want to get into that area of it, it's entirely necessary, because when we're not living from a passionate place, when we're not living from somewhere that's really authentic to ourselves, and somewhere that's really inspiring, we're always going to be working against the grain, especially when we're not in our strengths and doing things that are in our nature. So that opens up a whole door to start to explore ourselves in newer and more meaningful ways, and really start to look below the surface of what's driving us. So I absolutely believe it's not just a luxury, that living with passion, living with inspiration is absolutely vital. Absolutely vital for our world. And so for me, in my story, like, that's part of, what kept guiding me is when I worked in administration, I was one of the personnel managers for the Detroit Symphony Orchestra. I just loved being around the people, and I loved working with the people and making those connections. As a musician myself, I just really enjoyed that. Yeah. But at the same time, I felt limited within that role. And so I could only connect with them in a certain way. I was bound by a contract, certain things like that. And then so at a certain point, I'll just go teach yoga, right? I'll have a lot more freedom to do that. I'll have freedom to say what's necessary in order to help people move in the direction that they really want to move, because everybody needs a coach. Everybody needs somebody, that voice, to help give them that extra little push, that extra little encouragement. And at the end of the day, I love that, and I wouldn't stop doing that. For sure, because it's such a great way to connect with people and form a community around something meaningful and healthy. But I just found in that public setting, I wasn't really able to work with people in the way that's truest to me. And that's a one-on-one or small group kind of thing, where I'm able to sit down and ask the meaningful questions and just work with people in such a more intimate way, really sharing what's most important, what we're passionate about, what inspires us, and helping to find some ways to live from that space. So coaching was like the next it was just the next logical step that made all the sense in the world to me, and it just really lit me up when I opened up a space to be able to connect with people in that way. So absolutely necessary, and so much fun, to live from that kind of a space.
Awesome. And it's something too where I just appreciate about you and your partner Donna, just you have that that sort of energy about you that I know that you're telling the truth. I know that you're not faking this. You've got this big smile, and it wasn't always easy. Right now you have a thriving business and things are going good. You have some clients, you have some really good networks and some peers and things like that. But all of us really want to know about how you got there and how you really just got to those places, and what are some of the secrets to living with passion. And I've shared some of the secrets on the show and in some of my other pieces, but to live with passion, everybody has their own unique story to get there. And you have a really interesting story about how you got to the place to understand who you are, what matters the most to you, and how you can live with passion. Would you mind sharing that story?
Yeah, for sure. I wouldn't necessarily recommend everybody go my route. I think we can collapse the learning curve a little bit on that. But for me, I found myself as I was working with the Detroit Symphony that, I love, like I said, I love the organization. I love being around it, but the role itself was not really fully suited to me. And I just felt very limited in it. When you work for an organization like that, you're often undervalued. Nonprofits, just simply, as much as they believe in their message, they don't have the dough to spread around to pay for somebody who has experience and who has talents, and so you're consistently undervalued, especially in the administration part of it. So I got to a point there, and the schedule was intense. I had an awesome boss and an awesome mentor. The guy was absolutely phenomenal, who allowed me a certain amount of freedom, and that's the reason I stayed there for the 10 years that I did. But at a certain point, and I remember it, I was just sitting in not his office, but our boss's office, and I had asked for a raise, and they finally came around with something, and they did give me a little bit more money, but it was just really clear understanding that you're going to take this and you're going to step up and you're going to do your job and don't ask for anything more. And I was like, wow, it just really hit me full force that I had to ask myself as I was walking away. I felt that click in my head. I had that instant kind of revelation of wow. And the question came, and it was the question of questions for me is am I willing to live my life on somebody else's terms? How, what, when, everything. How much I'm getting paid, exactly what I'm worth, when I'm going to be there. And when their answer was right there. There was no hesitation. The answer was absolutely 100% no. I'm not willing to live my life on anybody else's terms. I want to live on my terms. And I made that decision, and within a few months I was out of there. And, it left in a positive way, and there was definitely a little decompression time from that. And I went right in. I just decided I had to really start scrambling and looking what am I going to do? Because I just knew I couldn't live like that. And a lot of my friends were a lot of my friends were proud of me. They're like, yeah, that's an amazing stuff. That's really cool. But truth be told, man, I did that out of desperation. And it was just an understanding in myself that I just knew that I couldn't live like that anymore. And so when I took that step, I just started scrambling. I thought, hey, it's this yoga thing. I've been doing this a little bit. Why don't I just do that? Play my trumpet, teach some yoga. And so I went and I did that. And I was scared. For sure, I was terrified, to be honest with you. So it seemed insane, but there was a voice in me. There was something in me that said, this is going to be big, and this is going to lead to a lot of things, and you really need to follow this because your intention is pure. You really just want to help people. That's what that voice was telling me, and that's what I followed, and I did that. And it was a great moment. It didn't fix everything. Now, the most shocking for me was that I did that, and it was cool for a minute and really exciting and very freeing, but I found a lot of those same patterns starting to come back around, some of the lack of motivation, some of that fear really starting to get in the way, and then that all that doubt of well, can I take this to the next level? Can I really keep this going? What do I do? And it was reflected too in me in a relationship that I'd had for a long time. I was in this relationship for years, and it was just not healthy for either of us. And there were so many attachments there, and there were so many things that weren't right within myself that I really needed to work out. And so I wound up at a yoga training, and there was a person there who asked me a question, you know, and hers was really simple. She knew a little bit about my story, and she just asked me, she's like, dude, what are you doing to yourself? And I'm like, wow, what am I doing? And from there, from that moment on, you know, I recognized what was happening. I recognized that I needed to get right with myself and really understand what was most important. And I went back, and as hard as it was, I ended that relationship and started to step forward. And that was the moment that I made a decision that my life would matter. I decided to matter. And that was the game changer. It was cool for me to decide to live on my own terms. I think that's really important for anybody, because we got to live in a way that's really congruent with our deepest values and our deepest wishes and aspirations. But until we decide to matter, all of that is really, really empty. And so if I had a word of advice to anybody, it's like trust in yourself and trust in your gifts, because you've got something in there that really needs to be shared. Yeah. And if you come from that kind of a space, help will come. And if you're open to showing up for yourself and showing up in your own life, you're going to have everything that you need to make that leap. So go for it.
That's so amazing. Just part of my story is that I was working at a computer store for quite a long time, and I have grown in this coaching business and grown to the point where, you know, it's like, okay, well, it's nice to have this extra part-time income, and that was a bit of my comfort zone. And here I was taking on like business clients and all these people where I was challenging them to, like, you know, go that extra mile and step in that extra bit and to really just like get true and understand who they are. And I was doing these really powerful things with clients, and I know that there was transformations happening for me too. But at a point for me, I knew that my time was done with this part-time job. And I don't want to just like dissuade things by saying, okay, well, you know, if you're living with passion, you should just drop everything that you have to make money. That's not my point. I knew that there's a season. Actually, the season was perfect. But I think that if you really check in with yourself, you know when the right time is, or you know somehow there's something off, and there's an opportunity for you to say, okay, it's time. And for me, I actually heard that for myself, but it actually took an encounter with someone else at my workplace, where the short version is I actually wasn't happy in my work. I wasn't motivated, but I was striving to be motivated all the time. And and I was doing all these incredible things for the first part of the week, and then the weekends would just deflate me. And I just like strive to get to that place. And one day, and I just thank him so much for saying this to me. And he said it because he was frustrated at my attitude. And he said, Scott, why are you even here? And I couldn't respond to it. We had a bit of a confrontation, if you will. And I just started pacing up and down the hallway at that workplace. And I started asking myself, it didn't take but 3 days until I said, okay, that's it. Talked with my wife, talked with God, and I was like, hey, I gave my notice. And I didn't have all the things figured out, but I was like, hey, I know that I need to step in. I know that I'm living in passion, but I know that there's a stepping in part that really could happen. And then shortly after that, I actually met you at the Coaching Leadership Academy, and we'll give Ted a big shout out here, because Ted made a big difference in my life in some ways, in some of the messaging and some of the things that he taught me. And the biggest thing I took away from that whole conference is that I realized for myself that I'd been stepping in about 80%. And a lot of people step in that 80% and they don't take that extra plunge to actually say, okay, well, what is that extra 20%? What does that look like? I think that looks like, that's like the raw, most real part of you coming through. And you saying, okay, well, I'm laying it on the floor. I'm laying my reputation. I'm laying everything that I have, everything that's part of me, all my being, and I'm just putting myself into it because I believe it's the right thing. And I'm going in with passion as well as strategy, and I'm just taking that to that next level and expecting more of myself. And it's cool. It's freeing to live in that. Of course, there's doubts and fears that can always come with that, but how about you? Like, tell me a little bit about your encounter. We both had some conversations at Ted's conference there about stepping in. Tell the audience a little bit about stepping in and maybe what you've learned by working with Ted.
Yeah, that it's wholeheartedness. What you described, that 80%, or that just keeping that into that safety and comfort zone. That's the rat race in so many ways. That's just you're always cutting yourself off from a part of that, and you're continuing to feed the wheel. But there's 80%, that's 20% of yourself that's cut off. That's you're not really connecting with, or really living, or really exploring, and getting into that space, getting into that extra 20%, or even if it's just that extra 10%, it's that little bit more. Whenever we start to stretch ourselves, that we start to find so much more of our potential within there. And it's always going to feel uncomfortable. Like that's what that space is.
All right. Wow. What a passionate guy Nick are. And Nick, I think that you're watching right now, so feel free to give a shout out if you haven't already on the chat line. I know that there's lots of people from all around the world that are on this chat, and also that are watching and that will be watching this as a replay. And I'm sure that you've inspired people around the world just with who you are and just the words that you got to share there. At the end, I intentionally cut our interview off at a certain point. And the reason is because what you said there I thought was just absolutely profound. And I just want to repeat what you said, and we put up there and we splashed it up there. Getting into that space of 10 to 20% is a place where it's going to start to stretch you. And you said that getting into that space and is going to be uncomfortable, and that's what that space is. I don't know about anybody out there, but does that hit you? That hit me. And I thought, like, this is a guy who's real, like, you're authentic about that. So Steve, what do you think about that last bit that Nick was talking about there, getting into that space?
Well, it's really important because when we can get into that space of passion, we truly live.
Yeah.
It's like if we're just going about partway through life, just living for our sensuality or just living for our mentality and leaving out the heart, or even just having the heart in and not caring for the rest of it, we're not living completely. And therefore, it's almost, as Nick had said, I forget the wording he actually used, but it almost becomes imperative upon us. When we get it finally, there's no going back.
That's right.
Once we start living with passion, we can forget moment to moment because we get caught up and so on, but it becomes an overriding guidance in life then.
Yeah.
And we go forward with a fuller life, start to live more fully.
Oh, it's so amazing. You're so right. There's so many things in that interview that just really stuck out to me. And I want to ask you a few things, and maybe you have some comments as well. But one of the things that really stuck out to me, Nick, about Nick's conversation was that he said that there was a point in his life where he knew that he didn't want to live life on anyone else's terms, that he wanted to live life on his own terms. It's like, what kind of profound place does somebody have to be at to know that they want to live their life on their own terms and to actually step out and say, okay, I'm going to do that?
I'm not sure really what it is for other people, though it seems like, and this goes back to old writings and my own experience as well, is it's almost like we have to hurt enough at some point.
Yeah.
And actually, it's a strange thing, that word passion. If you look it up in the origin of it, it means, it's got reference to pain, essentially.
Yeah.
There was a very famous movie about the Passion of Christ a while back.
Yeah, sure.
And it doesn't look like he was having too much passion. But that's where that word comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And in my case, every time that I've started to live was when I was down. And that's when I'd begin to get back to who I was, when I was down. And from that space of who I really am, I began to rise again.
Yeah.
And when I rose again, I got complacent, fat, and lazy again. It's a funny thing.
Sure.
You know, because I didn't quite get it. And I still don't completely get it. Get a little bit too comfortable, it's almost a disadvantage.
Yeah.
Except when we become fully aware of it, we can live with comfort and passion at the same time.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. What else did you take away from the interview?
There was a couple of things I just made a note of here. Let me just see what they were. Yeah, that point we already covered. He made the point that passion is essential. In other words, coming from somewhere deeper in order to truly live, he's talking about. And of course, he got into teaching yoga, which is all about centering ourselves spiritually.
Sure, yeah.
It's pretty hard to fake that without having some passion in life, that's for sure. And he also talked about, or you had asked him a question, what it was that got him from working where he was, which he enjoyed. He was a symphony orchestra, he did some sort of a job at the symphony orchestra, and he liked it. It wasn't quite what he wanted. And he went into, I think anyways, from what I took away from that, and he went into doing what he really wanted to do. And he talked about having, getting into that comfort zone.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit hard to get out of that sometimes.
Sure.
And I noticed for myself, once again, the biggest changes that took place in my life was when I kind of fell off the cliff and got myself into a challenge.
Yeah.
And life became a little bit of a struggle in a way, but I was aware enough to grow from that.
Oh, sure.
And what the biggest growths in my life have come from somehow getting out of that comfort zone for a while. And that was what really struck me, because I resonated with what he was saying there.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Nick, you had some great things to say, man. Was there anything else that you wanted to take away from the interview, just for the purposes of the audience as well?
Yeah, there was something he said, which was, there's a certain point that we get to when we really go. He talked about going for it at a certain point. It was like there was no turning back.
Yeah.
And there was a couple of times that happened in my life, and there was a feeling from within, and there's the tendency to say, oh, that's just a bunch of bollocks. Forget about that. This is too illogical. One of the things was because I was always a bit of a dreamer in my life, and people thought I was kind of odd in a way.
Yeah,
growing
sure.
up. But that's okay. I take it as a compliment these days. But there was one time when I was a teenager, I wanted to be a sailor. I wanted to sail on ships. And there was a time when the Canadian Navy used to run these ads, and there was a jingle that went, "No life like it, and it's what you want to do." And they had these nice pictures on TV. There was this Canadian destroyer. It was actually the Iroquois 280, and it was going through the ocean, and there was huge waves, and the waves were going up. I remember there was something beating inside of me, and I said, I'm going to work on that ship. Within about 2 years, I sailed on the sister ship of that. That was my posting. It wasn't the exact same ship, but it was a sister ship, an identical ship to that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Another time that happened to me was when we were in Vancouver. I had made a decision. I wanted to get some land and move to Saskatchewan. That's what brought us here. I remember telling my wife one time, in one of those moments that she thought I had gone completely mad.
Right.
I told her, I just looked at her in her eyes. I said, I'm going to build a house in Saskatchewan. Kind of out of the blue. You're going to what? Because I could feel it within me. And in that moment of feeling that, I was living with passion. Because it was the real life right now.
Yeah.
I could feel it in my heart. I could see it somehow logically, but not completely.
Yeah.
And it was just a feeling. a strong feeling. And to me, to get in touch with what we feel and what we want to go for is to really live on a deeper level.
Oh, it's so true. I could just tell you, like, when I get in the middle of a client session, and when we get to whatever place it is, even if we're plowing through some stuff, I end the call just feeling so alive. And I know that this is my passion because I end the call and I just go to my wife and say, I love coaching. And I've done it since the beginning. So the beginning for me was the coaching leadership, or the International Coach Academy, where I took my training. We had to coach all these people. And I'd end the call and I'd say, hey, Nicole, I love coaching. She's like, yeah, you always say that. And I keep on saying it, but I still say it. So it must mean that I love it, right? But I told a little piece of the story, Steve, about how I moved. And while we were watching the interview, you were like, man, that's something that stood out as well for you. And in the midst of that situation of me actually working at that computer store, I just knew that my time had come. And I didn't have all the answers as to, like how all the financing things are going to take place, or all the answers of, okay, well, it's like, is this really going to work if I move on? We have these questions, monetization questions, and, we have responsibilities. And a lot of people have questions about, can I really live in passion and also work? And I get asked those questions too. And Steve, one of the things that has to really be discussed is, how can we make money while working and do what we love doing and make money at doing what we love doing? And that's a really, really valuable question to ask. And we're going to cue up a little clip here that I think, just to add a little bit of humor, because I think that in this show, Living with Passion has to do with us having inspiration, us overcoming, and just being in a place of being, knowing our whys, having the strategies, but also humor. We need to laugh sometimes. So I'm going to cue up one of my very favorite clips from the TV show Seinfeld. It's going to be great.
So what are you going to do now? You going to look for something else in real estate?
Nobody's hiring now. The market's terrible.
So what are you going to do?
I like sports. I could do something in sports.
In what capacity?
Like the general manager of a baseball team.
Yeah, well, that can be tough to get.
Well, it doesn't even have to be the general manager. Maybe I could be like an announcer, like a color man. You know how I always make those interesting comments during the game?
Yeah, you make good comments.
So what about that?
Well, they tend to give those jobs to ex-ball players and people that are, in broadcasting.
Well, that's really not fair.
I know. Well, okay. What else do you like?
Movies. I like to watch movies.
Yeah.
Do they pay people to watch movies?
Projectionists.
That's true.
But you gotta know how to work the projector.
Right.
And it's probably a union thing.
Those unions. Okay, sports, movies. What about a talk show host?
Talk show host, that's good.
I think I'd be good at that. I talk to people all the time. Someone even told me once they thought I'd be a good talk show host.
Really?
Yeah, a couple of people. How do you get that, though? Where do you start?
Well, that's where it gets tricky.
You can't just walk into a building and say, I want to be a talk show host.
I wouldn't think so.
It's all politics.
That's one of the funniest clips ever. So, just George is there just like, well, I could be a manager of a baseball team. It's like, yeah. What do you think of that?
Well, I love Seinfeld for the reason that, well, it's funny. It's the funniest show,
funny.
the funniest show that was ever produced, as far as I'm concerned. But they always said it was about nothing, but really it's about life. It's everyday activities that are going on. And in this clip, as I see it, it's so often the mentoring and the coaching we get from friends, right? You know, like, oh, I'd like to do this. Yeah, but you're not good enough for that. They don't give stuff like that to guys like you, sort of thing.
That's true, yeah.
And therefore, the necessity is sometimes for perhaps a better coach than that.
The funniest thing is that later on in that episode, he goes and he gets a job with the New York Yankees. So I thought that was hilarious. You know, all of the, sometimes in spite of ourselves, you know, amazing things happen, right? So, but that's the lightness side. On the serious side, you know, how do you know that you're living in passion, or how can you live with passion? And there's some big questions that maybe some of you are asking yourselves about. How do I live with passion, and how do I do something that makes me money at the same time? So what would you say if somebody came and asked you that question? How do I live with passion, and how do I monetize living with passion?
Well, what I would say is to people, and what I recommend, I was talking to my son about this not long ago, that to me anyways, money is a measurement in life. Like what you talked about last night, that life itself doesn't have a lot of measurements, but business has some measurement. It's called income, it's called what the return is, the return on investment, or whatever you want to call it. And to me, if the focus is on getting the money, then I take my attention off where the money is coming from.
Sure.
And the money is a trade for services or products.
Yeah.
And to me, in whatever I do in business, I like the money.
Sure.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I try to keep it in my consciousness that the way I get the money is delivering the service, or delivering the goods, and doing what I can to expand that envelope, to give more. Mm-hmm. And I find when I give more, there's like a trickle-up prosperity.
Yeah, sure.
And what I found in what I do is that people offer me more voluntarily, mm-hmm. because I deliver whatever I can. I give it my all. Mm-hmm. And that's what happens, is it trickles up.
Oh, that's excellent. That's excellent. And one more thing too that really is important, if you're in the audience and you're watching this, living with passion doesn't mean you have to go change your career. I've coached people many times that feel like their life is just desolate and things are not going right, or they feel stuck, or whatever they feel, and they're just ready to just like say, hey, I'm disappointed with my career, I'm not happy with my career, and they're just like ready for change. And if you feel or you experience that, I encourage you to actually pause, to really check in with yourself. What I find often is that people really are not passionate in other areas of their life, and they're taking the blame out on the career, if you will. And yeah, there might be things that are not exciting about the career, but there might be real good reasons for you to actually stick it out for a season. And part of it may be for you to actually experience what you need to experience, and to actually start appreciating things and have more gratitude. One of the things that holds people back a lot is a scarcity mindset. And in 2 more episodes, not the next one, but the one after that, we're going to talk about how to create an abundance mindset. And creating an abundance mindset means, first of all, you have to recognize that there's scarcity in your life. So if you're operating in your job and you have scarcity mindset, which is basically limited thinking, then there's never going to be enough. And if you change careers or you go to another place, it's still not going to be enough. That's why it's important for you to, first of all, figure out who you are and what matters to you and why you want to do something. Figure out something that drives you, that motivates you. Go back to your childhood if you need to. Go back to the places where when you were a kid, you felt like, hey, you know, I was totally passionate about, sports, or I was totally passionate about drawing or creative things. And just like go into that, dive into that if you can. and ask yourself the questions that you maybe don't ask yourself enough. Who am I and what matters to me? And draw from that well. Another thing that really is important with that process is that sometimes we don't have the resources, the tools, and the frame of mind to actually ask ourselves all of those questions and know that you're actually going to get the right answers and the right results. And you also often don't have the accountability to move forward. And coaching really helps, because a coach can come in and a coach can help you see things from a new perspective. They can help you identify areas where you possibly are finding blockages. They can come in and they can help you with the tools. One of the biggest things they can help you with is that you can have a space where an environment is created for you to be able to share and to basically unload all of the different things. And it's a relationship like really no other, because I can't even liken it to a friendship, because in a lot of ways a friendship is like, Steve, I talk to you and I say, hey, how's it going? And if we're sitting over and having a coffee, you say, hey, I'm doing good. How are you doing? We talk about the weather. We talk about the sports. You don't want to talk too much about that because there's an obligation for you to actually include me. And that's just how friendships are in a lot of ways. And sometimes it's like, hey, let's go catch a movie, and you watch a movie, and then later on you chat for 15 minutes about the essential things you need to talk about. And that's friendship. Now, that's great, but do you really get to the core of what really matters in the conversation or really can help you start moving forward? Oftentimes the answer is no. And a coach can really help you get over those areas of blocks so that you can start to live in passion and identify what's passionate about you. So don't necessarily stop what you're doing. Don't necessarily quit your job. Look at yourself first and seek a coach. So can you give an example, like with coaching, like with what you've experienced with the power of coaching in your life?
I sure can, absolutely, Scott. Because last spring, I had a lot of things going on in my life, as I always do. And I had this book project, which was, I had it typed in on my computer. I had a file there called Book Project.
Yeah.
But I didn't have much else going on. But I had a whole bunch of stuff that was all over the place that I had written. But my thing was, I don't have the time. So I sat down with you for a couple sessions. And one of the things that came out of it, and there's other things too, but the key thing that came out of it was Scott had suggested that I do some delegating. And at first it was like, I'm not going to, how am I going to delegate? I'm not going to go hiring staff to do this and sort of thing. But because you said it, something clicked. My daughter, who was homeschooling at the time and was finishing up for summer holidays, was basically wandering around the house with nothing to do, with immense computer skills. Very literate teenage daughter. And I asked her, I said, Carissa, would you like to edit this book of mine that's coming up, put it together and do something with it? And she said yes, she would. And within a few weeks, she had a manuscript not only put together, but in the mail to me. She did a lulu.com online publishing, and this book was returned complete. And she put this together. The typesetting, the layout, the cover, the whole works, and did all of I had gone online, even just figuring out how to do the online publishing.
Sure, yeah.
I didn't have time for it. Well, at least I would have to put something else on hold. But because of that alone was worth the value of a couple of coaching sessions. That one thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
And Scott was able to say things to me that nobody else would say them to. Say those things to me because like friends wouldn't. But you said them because you could see them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A good coach is willing to stand in your corner, to back you when you feel weak and pick you up when you feel like you need to actually have somebody to pick you up.
Yeah.
And a good coach is somebody who's also going to recognize areas where you need to say, okay, I need a kick in the pants, or I need to move forward, and keep you accountable to those things. Because in some ways, if you don't have that, you're going to stay stuck. Or you're going to stay unmotivated, or you're not going to accomplish or live your dream. And get past those things so you can totally live in that freedom and live in that passion.
Well, this wouldn't have been done yet.
Yeah.
For me, that's a real tangible that I can throw out there as something obvious. That it's not something in my head or whatever. I can hold that up and say, the reason this is here is because I talked to Scott. largely.
I didn't tell him to say that.
Yeah.
That was spontaneous.
Yeah, it was spontaneous. I didn't even think of it ahead of time, but it's true. Yeah.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you, buddy. I'm proud of you. I'm
Yeah.
proud of you.
Thanks.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your book, and tell me about, you know, what it means and what it's about.
Well, one of the things that we were going to talk about here tonight too was, who are we?
Yeah.
You know, and one of the things that not to go into too long of a story, I realize I like to boil things down. Boil them down, boil them down, boil them down. And as simplistic as this may sound, I am man.
Yeah, sure.
You know, I am man. So what's man? And one of the things that really struck me when I went to my brother's funeral a few years back, he passed away early in life. There was this man who was a genius in many ways. He was a lawyer. He was an accomplished musician. He was a literary savant. He was a father. He was, you know, and he was respected in his community and so on. And there he was lying in a casket. The only thing is, he wasn't there.
Yeah.
And it really struck me. I had it on an intellectual level, but I really got it at that point, that there's more to us as human beings, men and women, than just this.
Yeah.
There was something missing, and what was missing was his life.
Yeah.
And we all have that life while we're here, and it's precious. It's absolutely precious. So with those kind of perspectives, I began to boil down what it is that human beings do throughout life. And that's really what the book is called Free Your Inner Genie. And genie, of course, is a mythological creature that pops out and can give you what you want. Well, we have that within us. It's called life.
Yeah.
And it's bountiful. It's unlimited. All we have to do is look at the nature of human beings in their history. We've gone from living in caves and treating each other like barbarians.
Sure, yeah.
To flying through space and having an understanding and respect and equality of the sexes and all this sorts of things. We all, and that nature exists within us. You know, there's iPhone 4 last year. There'd be an iPhone 6 next year. Mm-hmm. This is what keeps on unfolding within the human spirit, within the human being. And I call it the continuum of advancement.
Okay. Yeah.
There's something within us. And everything we go for in life seems to go through these steps. And there's that why attached to it. Whether we're conscious of it or not, when we go forward to make more money, to have a relationship, to develop a coaching business, to get a new job, whatever, if we were to take a moment and examine that, why do we want it? It would fortify and strengthen what we're doing.
Yeah.
And that's what this book attempts to help people with. It's like a cheerleading book. You are fantastic. You are unlimited at the base of your core. You are life, and you can grow.
Oh, man, that's awesome. That's really, really, really cool. Really cool. So you can find more information about Steve Maloney at www.flatbellyfeeling.com, and you can totally inquire about the book as well on that website. And also, you can go to authenticthoughts.com and you can find out more about Nick Hansinger. And Nick also has a Facebook page, and he asked me to ask people, he says, if you want to connect with him, you can go to facebook.com/NICK.HANSINGER. So you can go and connect up with Nick, and Nick would love to have a chat with you as well. To end the show, I'm just going to ask you one question. And you can just think on this. Why? That's it. That's the question. Why? Ask yourself, why? What is your why? What is drawing you so much from the inside and wants to come out? Why are you doing what you do right now? Why do you want something different? Why do you want passion? Why do you want to live with passion? Why? Thank you so much for joining us today with Abundance Coaching TV. We really look forward to you just continuing on this journey and with helping you just connect with your authentic, amazing self so that you can live with passion and have abundance in life. The next episode is going to be next Wednesday at 7 o'clock Central Standard Time. That's 5 p.m. Pacific Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you're out in Australia, I know a few people are watching from Australia, that's noon on Thursdays. And next time we're going to be talking about what matters the most to you. And we're actually going to dig deep into your core values. And I'm going to have some really cool guests on for that episode as well. So don't miss that episode live. If you couldn't catch this episode, just check out the replay, and you can always check the replays out at a later time as well. So until we chat again, live with passion and have abundance in life.